Hello everyone, and welcome back to class. Today, I'm recording a video as an example for my students on their multi-genre project. If you're here just for boy bands, welcome. Basically, I'm doing the project along with my students. Also, some of my students told me I needed more content, so here you go. Anyway, today's video is called Boy Band 101, which means class is officially in session. No, seriously, if there was a boy band class, I'd probably teach it over language arts. Maybe. I don't know. But the point is, I know a lot and we're about to learn. So anyway, buckle up, get ready to take notes because here is our agenda. First, we're gonna talk about types of boy bands. Second, we are going to talk about what makes a successful boy band. And third, we are going to talk about why solo artists from boy bands fail or flourish. Let's do it. Okay, before we go too deep into this topic, we've got to talk about the types of boy bands. Yes, it's a thing. Here's how I like to categorize them. First, you have what I like to call your slow burns. These are like the bands that are like a fire that just can't be put out, an eternal flame, if you will. While their popularity ebbs and flows throughout their existence, they exist beyond the usual time span and lifespan of a boy band, which is 5 years. These are your boy bands like New Kids on the Block or Backstreet Boys. Basically, these are the greatest of all time.
Talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular.
Next, you have what I like to call firecrackers. Firecrackers explode and then kind of die out. Honestly, most boy bands that you've probably heard of are indeed firecrackers. They do this thing where they're really, really huge and great for a period of time, and then it's just over. They like to call this a hiatus, which really is just a nice way of saying, hey, we're going to break up, but we're gonna get your hopes up unnecessarily for a reunion that's never going to happen. NSYNC is a perfect example. Tons of people my age are still waiting for a reunion. Never gonna happen. Unfortunately, as well, as much as it pains me to say, the same is true for One Direction. Let's just take a moment of silence right now for what could have been. In the arms of the angel. I really don't think I'll ever get over that tragedy. Finally, most boy bands as well fall into this last category, but you probably don't know of them. I like to call them sparklers. Like the 4th of July theme we got going on here. Sparklers burn bright for a very short period of time. They're kind of like your one-hit wonders. Some examples are LFO, Big Time Rush, and O-Town. And don't get me wrong, we love them, but really they're just okay.
It's really just okay. Keeping it real, keeping it real.
So now that we've got our categories of boy bands, that leads us directly into what makes one successful. How exactly do some boy bands explode while others burn out? Did you like the fire reference that I did there? Usually, successful boy bands have 3 big qualities. 1, they have a variety of personalities in the band. 2, they have a large fan following. And 3, they have catchy songs. So let's start with number 1. For some reason, boy bands have 5 members. It's like an unwritten rule or something. And within these 5 members, you've usually got some stereotypes that they unknowingly usually, or maybe their management does it on purpose, but they follow these stereotypes, okay? So you kind of have the quiet one, the angel, everyone's favorite, slash heartthrob, slash frontman, whatever you want to call it, the bad boy, the rebel, and you have the responsible one. Let me give you an example. All right, so in Backstreet Boys, you've got Nick Carter, and he's kind of like the angel. You have Kevin Richardson, and he is the responsible one. You have AJ McLean, he is the bad boy rebel. And you have Brian, he is the front man or heartthrob, which is honestly a little bit debatable, but we're not gonna get into that. And then you have Howie D, who is the quiet one, right? So perfect. Then let's jump over to One Direction. We have Harry Styles, everyone's favorite, the front man. Listen, even if Harry Styles isn't your favorite member, he's your favorite member. It's just the way it works. Then you have Niall Horan, he is the angel. Just such a flawless little leprechaun. I love him dearly. You have Zayn Malik, he's the quiet one, kind of like mysterious, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. Then you have Liam, he is the responsible one. And then you have Louis Tomlinson. I guess I don't know if he's really a bad boy, but he's kind of just like a rebel, right? He just kind of does whatever he wants. Kind of a loose cannon, and we love to see it, honestly. So see, really, they have a variety of personalities, and what's really cool about this and what it makes them successful is that there's something for everyone, right? You have 5 different options of like different types of guys to latch onto and like, and really claim as your favorite. This helps the reach become much wider, which leads us to our second thing. Successful boy bands always have a large fan following. Now, this used to be super hard back in like the 90s and before, because like you didn't have social media to spread the word. So like there's major props to NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, because they had loads of people in their fan base and they had to do it all old school. Thank God for TRL. Now, the reason I think One Direction blew up so quickly, because like your 90s boy bands, it took them years to get on the map, but for One Direction, I think it's because of social media for sure. The internet was in full force in 2010, so they were able to jump on YouTube or post on social media to get the word out in between albums and keep the hype up. Jonas Brothers are kind of like in the middle. While they had the internet, it wasn't really developed like it is now. Shout out to MySpace. But this is why Disney was so crucial for them, and being on the Disney Channel got them such a huge following, because people watch TV. All that to say, if you can get a fan base of loyal fans, you are halfway there. Finally, your music has to be catchy. I've seen many a boy band who have the variety of members and they have the fan following, but their songs just aren't catchy enough to make it onto mainstream media. This is crucial because in order for them to become a successful and kind of long-lasting, it has to be sustainable through mainstream media. Big Time Rush is one that comes to mind. Although I love them dearly and I was a part of their loyal fan base for a while, their songs really just weren't catchy enough to get on the radio. And while they had a couple hits, overall it was just kind of like very much made for their TV show. It wasn't even talent, because they were super talented, but it just really had to do with the quality of their songs. Okay, last segment here. Third thing I want to talk about is, unfortunately, the inevitable when boy bands break up.
We feel like it's time that the Jonas Brothers comes to an end.
One Direction, the band, is taking an extended break to focus on their solo projects, I know.
Literally, there is nothing worse to me. But what's interesting is the solo acts that come out of these boy bands. These two usually follow formula. All right, so remember our firecrackers from earlier, the ones that like explode and then just kind of like are gone? Those bands are the ones that are most likely to have your successful solo acts. Honestly, your slow burns really don't, because most of their solo endeavors were largely unsuccessful, and really they're just kind of better as a cohesive unit anyway. But firecrackers usually have a standout member while the band exists. For NSYNC, it's Justin Timberlake, the heartthrob of the group. For 98 Degrees, Nick Lachey, again, the heartthrob of the group. And then One Direction, you guessed it, Harry Styles, the heartthrob. Really, it's not always the heartthrob, but also yes, it is. And the reason for this, I think, is because they're everyone's favorite and they're the front man and they're the one that most people recognize even outside of the fandom. So thus, they're gonna have more people support them in their music as it moves forward. Not only that, but if they have the charisma, the stage presence, that's gonna carry them a lot further than, say, your quiet member who kind of just like keeps to themselves. I will note that usually in some boy bands, you have members who don't even try to attempt to go solo. So like your Kevin Jonases, your Joey Fatones, Chris Kirkpatrick, except for Shiny Teeth, that was a whole bop.
Shiny teeth and me.
Here's what's interesting. One Direction is unprecedented in this sense. Each and every single one of their members actually did end up successfully going solo. Now, clearly some are more popular than others, but the very fact that each of them have an album is very interesting because it's not something that usually happens. But we don't have time to go down the rabbit hole of pros and cons and strengths and weaknesses. Check out the review below in the description or just scroll down if you're interested. So there you have it. That's the basics of boy bands, boy band 101, if you will. Hopefully you learned something new today, even if it's just that Miss French is super weird and a huge nerd. It's cool. I'm aware of that, so that's fine. Until next time, get outside, read a book, and be nice to each other.